See, I don't think there's anything virtuous in being a team player if you're okay with losing. I'm not saying you have to win all the time, but there should be a drive to want to win, to want to be the best, to want to compete, and this is biblical. So what's wrong with winning? What's wrong with winning? Hi, Sean Isaacs here with another day of daily nuggets of wisdom. It is Saturday. And I just want to take a few moments to talk about this concept, this idea. What's wrong with winning? It's a simple question to ask. For some of you, it seems like it's a no-brainer that there's nothing wrong with winning. But unfortunately for me, my experience has been that there are many of God's people, many Christians, many church people, many religious folk, and I don't mean religious in a negative way, because not all religion is bad. The scriptures do talk about a pure religion that's identified in James 1:27, that's undefiled, and that is to visit the pure, the orphans and the widows, and in their affliction, and to keep yourself unspotted from the world. And so, not all religion is bad religion, but there are some traditions, there are some ways of thinking that are bad. They're unbiblical. They're not like Christ. They're not God honoring. Now, what I want to do for just a quick moment is I want to talk just a little bit about this subject of winning. Is there something wrong with winning? Is there a problem with winning, or desiring to win, or wanting to win? To kind of set this up, let me just quickly state at the outset that the idea came from something I experienced when I first started working about 12 years ago with the radio station that I work with, Star 99.1, as a broadcast marketing specialist. And I'm not blowing up the station. I'm not being critical here. I just want to use my experience as a way to illustrate or give an example of what I'm referring to, because I believe it will be better understood in this way. So I had worked with a set of radio stations called Salem Media. Salem Media is like the gorilla, or was like the gorilla, the large Christian format set of stations throughout the nation, throughout America. It would be like the Clear Channel in the Christian format. All right. And so this particular set of stations, which was publicly traded with public, shareholders and so on, was driven by sales, driven by the need to create revenue, driven by the need to make as much revenue as possible, as lawfully and as God honoring as is possible. And I give that qualifier there because sometimes people hear about making money, or making lots of money, or making as much money as possible, and they conclude automatically that it must be that you're doing something wrong, or somehow that desire lacks virtue. Hopefully that makes sense to you. So I had been working with this other set of stations for a while, and I had been used to being in an environment of high selling, where we had 10 sales reps that were used to competing in a very healthy way and seeking to be the best. And by God's grace, I had become the top seller at this particular station. So I moved over to the new organization, and this new organization, as they typically do, would have staff meetings. And in the staff meeting, I was to share a little bit about myself and say, a couple habits or hobbies or whatever, that sort of thing. Basic introduction. And so thinking it's going to be great, that this station is going to be happy to have this new salesperson who is passionate about selling and want to win and want to be the best. I got up and I said something like, listen, at the top station, I was the top biller. I didn't add by God's grace or anything. Some people think you have to add all of that. Somehow, if you don't say that, you're not giving God credit, right? But, so I had I said something like, that I was the top biller where I was, and I've always been the top seller or one of the top sellers. I've been in sales at this time I had been in sales for more than 20 years. And so, it's something I've been very passionate about, and unapologetically, right? Some people apologize for selling or being in sales, right? They have negative views. So again, as I got up and I said something like, I've been the top seller everywhere I've been, and my goal here is that within a certain amount of time, I want to create the most revenue and be the top seller here. Now, I don't remember at this time, most of the people that were part of the organization then are not still part of the organization today. Much of the sales staff has been changed. Actually, there's no one in the sales department now that were part of that department when I came. But anyway, long story short, I made my statement. I thought people would be excited, that they would celebrate, and instead I could hear a pin drop, and immediately, without anyone saying anything, I realized that for this particular culture, this organization, whatever they had begun to believe about selling and sales and winning, right, and being the best in relation to creating money, because again, people would desire to be the best in all I'm sure, all the work that they did, they wanted to do it with excellence and be the best. But when it comes to making money, somehow I could hear a pin drop, and I walked away. I never discussed it with anyone. I never shared it with anyone, but I knew that for me to put that kind of light on myself was not going to be viewed or seen in the best light. And so why do I bring all that up? Well, over the years, I've had the opportunity of working with lots of God's people. And it's been a surprise to me, and it came up this past week, and that's why I'm talking about it now. It came up in a conversation that I was having with a lawyer friend who had experienced the same thing, which was he had met many of God's people, many Christians that somehow were very passive and felt that it was virtuous to not be a winner, to not do the best, to not, beat others out. There's this idea that being a team player somehow is more virtuous than competing to win. And I just want to challenge that idea. See, I don't think there's anything virtuous in being a team player if you're okay with losing. I'm not saying you have to win all the time, but there should be a drive to want to win, to want to be the best, to want to compete, and this is biblical. In 1 Corinthians 9, verse 27, the Apostle Paul, or 24, I think, the Apostle Paul is seeking to make a case to the Corinthians, to the saints at Corinth, and understanding that the walk and the life and the living of the child of God is like a race. It's like being in the Olympics. Paul uses language to help the Corinthians understand how they should be thinking about running the race of Christianity. And he says, and I'm paraphrasing, he says, don't you realize that everyone that runs in a race runs to win? That everyone that competes in a race competes to get the prize? In other words, no one who runs in a race, no one that prepares for an Olympics, no one who prepares to be for boxing or for fighting or for skiing or whatever the sport may be, no one in their right mind, you can add as a qualifier, will do it without having the goal to win or to be the best. And yet, many of God's people, somehow we think we're boasting when we say our desire is to win. When we say our desire is to be the best. My desire is to build the biggest company in my industry. Somehow by stating that, as a child of God, you lack virtue, you lack Christ-likeness, you lack biblical thinking, biblical theology, and nothing could be further from the truth. Now, what I would say is if in saying that, you don't allow, as James says, don't say you're going to go into such and such a city and do such and such and build great things and do great things, and don't add at all if the Lord wills. See, you and I can't do anything without God. John 15:5 says that. And so James says, all boasting that does not include God in our plans is unrighteous boasting. It's not good boasting, right? Boasting in and of itself is not bad. The Apostle Paul says he glories in the cross of Christ, right? There is a sense of boldness and courage that the child of God should have. The righteous are as bold as a lion, all right? So, nothing wrong with winning. There's nothing wrong with winning. And so, but you in your heart can believe there's something wrong with winning. And that comes out by believing, anytime someone makes a statement about winning or being the best or wanting to win, your heart automatically interprets that as pride, as haughtiness, as arrogance, as self-sufficiency. Then maybe you got to check your heart because you don't know that person's heart. See, this is what the Bible means, that the word of God divides asunder between joint and marrow. And what does the word do? It discerns not only the thoughts, but the intentions of our heart. See, God is always concerned about our intentions. That's why we should not form opinions just by what we see or hear with our ears and eyes, or eyes and ears. So, nothing wrong with winning. The power to hold on and endure in spite of everything is the quality of a winner. The power to hold on and endure in spite of everything is the quality of a winner. Why not desire to be a winner? Why not commit to being a winner? One writer said, your glory is not in never failing, but your glory is in rising every time you fail. See, the glory is not in never failing. There's nothing virtuous in being able to say, I've never failed. I've never lost. No, the real glory is even if you've lost, even if you've failed, that has not crushed you, killed you, knocked you down where you are afraid now to get up again, or to act or move again. It is the constant and determined effort that will eventually break down all resistance and sweep away barriers that are before us. How do we break down barriers? How do we sweep away the things that are in the way? Determined effort. Constant and determined effort. And what do we call that? Persistence. And one writer says persistence means taking pains to overcome every obstacle. It will be painful to be persistent. And all great achievement, I'm sure you'll agree, requires time and effort. Okay? All great achievement requires time and effort. So I want to leave you with my nugget of wisdom is, there's nothing wrong with winning. Nothing wrong with winning. You shouldn't be ashamed to say your goal is to win. Somehow America has begun to embrace in the last 20 years or so, maybe 30, this idea that somehow if one child wins and other children lose, that there's something wrong there. So everybody has to win something. Everybody has to get a prize. This creates a very weak nation. That's why our nation is extremely weak now. People are overly sensitive. They're easily offended. They're easily bothered. They can't be inconvenienced. They can't survive often in environments without comfort. And all of this flows out of the way we raise and train our children. Scripture says, train up a child, not just train them, train up a child in the way they should go. And when they're old, they won't depart from it. All right. So this idea of giving everyone an award, giving everyone a prize, I don't like it. Bad idea, unbiblical, right? What God gives, God is not fear, by the way, in his giving. And if you think fairness is virtuous, you don't understand the Bible. To be fair is not a virtue, because there's no such thing as being fair. To be fair is to know the capacity of the person that you're giving whatever you're giving to. Let me say that again. To be fair is to know the individual, what their capacity is, what their ability is, what their experience is, what their knowledge is. See, to be fair doesn't mean that if you have 3 children, everyone gets 2 candy. Maybe one child, 1 candy is all they can have. See, the great thing about God is he is omniscient. He has all knowledge. So when he's giving out gifts, or when he's giving out talents, he doesn't put 3 people in front of him and say, each of you get 5 talents. No. God gives, as the old King James says, severally, as based on every person's ability. What does that mean? One guy, based on his level of faithfulness, his capacity, his knowledge, his experience, can only handle 1 talent. Another guy can handle 5 talents, and the third guy can only handle 2. And the great thing about God is he doesn't expect the guy with 1 to have 6, or to multiply the 1 by 5. He doesn't expect the guy with 2 to have 10 when he's done. And he doesn't expect the guy with 5 to have 2 more. He expects them to be able to produce at the capacity or the level of their knowledge, their experience, their capacity. Okay? So, fairness sounds like a virtue. And kids say it all the time, don't they? Mommy, daddy, that's not fair. And you carry all this guilt because you feel you're not a fair parent. You know, I can look at my 5 children, and the 4 oldest ones all got cell phones at different ages. One child was able to get a cell phone at 12. Another didn't get a cell phone until 14 or 15. The other 2, I think, were maybe 16 or 17 years old. And it was based on what we believe their level of responsibility was. You know, how much temptation would they be able to endure by having access to a cell phone? So what does all this have to do with winning? Well, I go back to the team idea. You know, the idea is it's more virtuous to be a team player than to win. Why can't you win as a team player? Why can't you be on a team but desire to be the best on that team? What's wrong with that? Nothing's wrong with that if your attitude is not to boast or be in your attitude or your heart, I'm superior to my teammates, or I'm superior to my competitors, or I am better than others. That there is the problem. When you think you're better than, 1 Corinthians 4:7 says, no one should boast, because everything we receive, everything we have, has come from God. And if you received what you've been given, how can you boast? How can you boast in a gift? You know, it is foolish for LeBron to boast in a gift. Yes, he had to cultivate that gift. He was given that in seed form. And if he didn't have a good work ethic, he would not be a great basketball player. But not everybody could be LeBron James or Michael Jordan. Not everyone can be, and you fill in the blank. Right? So God gives us things in seed form. And I don't expect LeBron not to boast, because LeBron is not a Christian. Right? He's not he's not a disciple of Jesus. How do I know? Oh, don't judge, Sean. I know because I look at his life. I look at the fruit of his life. I look at his words. I look at his actions. He's my favorite basketball player, but he's still lost. Right? And I need to believe he's lost so I can pray for him. So anyway, that's the thoughts I want to leave you with. There's nothing wrong with winning. There's nothing virtuous about losing, unless you chose to lose to lift up someone else that you wanted to win. Now that would be virtuous. When you know you could win, but you chose to deny yourself so that the other person could experience winning, which they probably never had the ability to do. That's still different from giving everyone a prize. All right, Sean Isaacs here with another Daily Nuggets of Wisdom. As usual, please take time to like, share, and comment if something resonates with you. And I would encourage you, make sure you like my YouTube channel, because most of this stuff, along with some other things I'm going to be doing, will be reposted there. This way you don't have to try to keep up with all of my daily nuggets on Facebook, because there's no set time that I go live. Okay? There's no set time that I go live, but if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, every time I upload or I have new videos uploaded, you'll be notified. That's the point. All right? Listen, I hope you found something here helpful. Leave some feedback. God bless you. Have a good weekend.